हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्ण। Let's wait for a few minutes. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंच कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते रघुनाथ स्वामी विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारण निर्विशेष अंगम लंघयते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओम। हरे कृष्ण। So welcome back to our continuation of the discussions of Lord Rishabhdev's teachings to his sons. Before I start the class, I just want to check if you remember, because I'm not sure about one subsection. Does anybody remember up to what verse we concluded last time?
What 14, Prabhuji?
14, right?
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure because I was not sure 15 to 18 whether we covered or we didn't. Okay, thank you. So Rishabhdev very wonderfully within 14 verses has summarized so beautifully. So this is eloquence. Eloquence means to speak the truth in a very concise, very beautiful way. So profound, these verses. So beautifully he has summarized. What is the goal of life? Why our goal or our means to that goal of life of perpetual happiness cannot be fruitive activity. Why it should be aimed at our real self, the spiritual self. And what is the process for the cultivation of the happiness of the real spiritual self. Very beautifully, he gives the various aspects of the practice. He explains how devotional service is so keen to the whole process, so key to the whole process. He also explains how the whole process starts by taking shelter and guidance under a bona fide spiritual master, and how important the association of devotees is to remain on the path, to continue on the path. So very beautifully he summarizes. One must follow dharmic duties, one must accept a spiritual master, one must do the sadhana, chanting, worship, service, kirtan, katha, offering respects to the spiritual master, being equally disposed to all living entities, not being envious, not being attached, being cautious of not associating too much with materialistic persons. All that we are learning across so many scriptures, so wonderfully he has summarized. Very nice, very beautiful set of verses. And he says that if you follow the process that I have explained to you, the result will be that the karmashayam, this tight knot that he spoke about, which is caused by this intimate contact between the male and the female with a desire to enjoy, that hard knot of material existence will first be loosened and eventually it will be broken. But it's very important to change one's paradigm of enjoyment. What is the paradigm of enjoyment for the conditioned soul? The paradigm of enjoyment for the conditioned soul is exploit material nature as much as possible so that your mind, ego is satisfied to the maximum. But the scriptures repeatedly say this is a path to spiritual suicide, not the path to happiness. Yeah, of course, many beautiful examples have been given, so I'm not going to go through all that, but just, it's like a sweet poison. So let's say, somebody gives you a glass, a small, nice, beautiful golden cup, very beautiful liquid. And says, please drink. You say, ask, what is this? Please tell me. You say he tells you this is poison. But no problem. It is very sweet. Just taste it and oh, it's so sweet. It is sweet poison. Don't worry about the poison. The poison effect will come later. For now, you'll enjoy the sweetness, no? So you don't need to think about it. It's okay. Just enjoy the sweetness. If somebody argues with you like that, will you say, yes, Prabhu, that is wonderful. Yeah. Now I will taste the sweetness after that. Obviously, any intelligent man will not do that. But that's precisely what conditioned souls have been doing, life after life after life. So enamored by the temptation of immediate sense gratification, forgetting one's real welfare, one becomes anchored to the misery of material existence. And all hopes for finding any long-term solution to the problems of life, of birth, old age, disease, death, adi devik, adi bhautik, adhyatmic miseries come crashing down because one cannot give up the temptation for immediate sense enjoyment. So difficult for conditioned souls to overcome. 99.9999% of the population is in this trap, including various categories of religionists and spiritualists, including sadhakas. Because among so many sadhakas, to find a sadhaka who has actually understood this and overcome this requires a fair amount of purification. It's not such an easy thing. And we may all nod our head. Have we actually understood? Because if you have actually understood, we wouldn't be doing this. So that becomes the stage of nishtha, that firm faith. That nishtha comes when sufficient anartha nivrutti has come. When sufficient anarthas have been removed, then one can see clearly that this is not the path to happiness. The path to happiness is actually going in the opposite direction. The path to happiness is the path of service, not the path of exploitation. We don't have to reject the world, nor do we have to become an enjoyer of the world. We have to understand who's the real owner of the world and use the things of the world in service of the real owner. Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalokam Eshwar. I am the enjoyer, Krishna says. I am the controller. I am the proprietor. I am the well-wisher. He who understands this finds a real peace. And without peace, there is no happiness. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya nacha ayuktasya bhavana. Anyway, there are so many beautiful verses. So very beautifully, he summarizes this whole process of how it is so important to be rightly oriented. And he's telling all these instructions to his children because he wants them to rule keeping this in mind. See, one can give a checklist of details of so many instructions, but the vision and the mission must be clear. If the vision and mission is not clear, either for the country, for an organization, or for even a family, or for ourselves, for our own lives, then we don't know where we are going. There is this famous dialogue in Alice in Wonderland. You all heard about Alice in Wonderland? We have heard about that when we were very young. I haven't read the full book. A little bit. I know what it is. It's a fantasy land story. So in that, I don't know who are the characters, but one character comes and asks to the other character, all these, fantasy characters. He said that, should I take this way or should I take this way? So that person, before he answers the question, he asks him, where is it that you want to go? So he says, well, it doesn't really matter. Just tell me where, which way should I take? It doesn't really matter. He says, if it doesn't really matter, the person answers, it doesn't matter which road you take. Because if you do not have a destination clearly identified, what is the question asking which way should I go? People lead their life, spend childhood, get a job, high-paying job, get married, have children, go to foreign countries, make some few homes and apartments, get some little bit name, fame, recognition in this world, suffer throughout the life in the process, become miserable, become old, diseased, and die. Just living through life. So Rishabhdev wants to make sure that his children, because they are going to rule the world, they have a very clear vision of what is the purpose of material existence, what is the goal of life. Because if they don't understand this, what are you ruling for? Are you just ruling just to make sure that there is roti, kapda, makan? And nowadays people think, oh, government means roti, kapda, makan. Okay, roti, kapda, makan is important. But roti, kapda, for those who do not understand, roti, kapda, makan means basic necessities of life: food, clothing, shelter. Hindi words. That is available even to the animals. Is that why we are so much of governance for? The birds are getting, they don't even need kapda. Makan they build on their own, or they stay in trees or hollows or whatever. Without job, without struggling so much. They are managing the basic needs of life. So Rishabhdev wants to make sure that his sons do not, his children do not forget what is the purpose for which they are ruling. Because the purpose of the king is to execute the will of the Lord. And what is the will of the Lord? The will of the Lord is that the very special facility of the human form of life, which is the opportunity to understand what we just discussed and to aim and work towards the real goal of life, that facility must be provided to everyone. Of course, the basic necessities of life are there, but they are meant in such a way that one can peacefully execute the real purpose of life, not as an end goal in itself. Because that is the end goal of the animals, not of the humans. Ahana nidra bhai metunam to samanya metat. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishu. Dharma means higher inquiry. Athato brahma jigyasa. Athato means now that you are a human being, now you must inquire about the goal of life. Now you must inquire how I can put an end to all suffering. So he was not giving classes in politics. In the Gurukul of Hiranyakashipu, where Shanda and Amarka were teaching, there the topic of teaching was politics, how to lie, how to manipulate, how to friends, enemies. That is the Asura topic. That is, for them, governance means that. So that Aham and Mama can be, the cause of Aham and Mama can be progressed. But that is an Asuri civilization. A Daivi civilization, a Daivi Varnashrama, is a system where everybody is given all facility, encouragement, protection, guidance to progress towards the real goal. So he wants to make sure it's very clear. Because if the direction is not clear, what is the use? For example, I'll give you a gross example. You're in the train station. You want to go towards Delhi, let's say. And then you realize, oh, the train going towards Delhi is very crowded. And then you see on another platform another train. That train is air conditioned, it's very comfortable. Will you just jump into that train? That train is going towards Kanyakumari. It's going in the opposite direction. It's going to, but you say, no, no. See, this train is very crowded. That train is empty, no? So let's get into an empty train. Why are we going into a crowded train? Arey Baba, but what is the first question? The goal is not about a comfortable train. The goal is about what is the destination? If you're not going to ask about destination, you're just interested in comfort, then why are you even getting into a train? Sit in your home. So the goal, the mission of human form of life is paramount. And then the process to attain is paramount. That's why he's giving this. Because all other topics they know. They've already gone through Gurukul. These are all grown-up children. They have learned skills. What is important is vision and character. So very beautifully in 14 verses, he summarizes that. And then he says a very beautiful thing, which is where our today's discussion begins. He says, Rishabhdev says, if anybody who's in a leadership position, especially a father, a king, a guru, or a parent, he who understands this real goal of life and who wants to go back home, back to Godhead, such a person must give the highest priority in life to actually receiving the mercy of the Supreme Personality of God. Mada anugrahartha. That should be what should be guiding your life, your compass. The compass is not about where is more money. Your compass is about how the Lord is most pleased. And not only he must do that for himself, but because they are in leadership position, they should ensure that they train their dependents, their children, their students, their subjects about what the purpose or the goal of life really is. They should train them, they should educate them, they should encourage them. And it is quite natural that many of these dependents may not be able to follow the process very well. It's natural in this world. Is everyone going to be a wonderful sadhaka? No. Rishabhdev says, just accommodate them, tolerate them, just encourage them at whatever level they are. Encourage them. Don't inspire them, Rishabhdev says, in material fruitive activity. Warning. Don't encourage, because that's the path of misery. Don't cheat them by encouraging them, by giving them the wrong idea that if you just make money, have a beautiful wife, achieve a big position, get some respect in society, oh, life ban gaya. Huh? When I was very young, I was talking to a friend. I was very young. I was even before, around before 10th standard also. I was talking to a friend. He was a very intelligent boy. He just got admission in IIT. Very good rank. IIT. In my colony. So you're saying, you should aim for IIT, then you should do IIM, and then you'll get a top job, and life ban gaya. Your life is done. Your life is set. So really, yeah. This is the goal of life, is it? Yeah. You get a good job, and so these are the thoughts which are guiding the life of modern youth. Sad, isn't it? And Rishabhdev is warning. The emperor of the world is warning his children. Don't you do this. And make sure that all those who are in leadership position don't teach this to their dependents. Because this will be like a blind man leading another blind man into a deep dark well. But be gentle. Be gentle. It's not that you have to carry a whip and come on, chant, get up. You're doing fruitive activity. I'm going to whack you. This is not the way. He's very, very careful. He says, without being angry. despite their incompetency. Gently encourage them. Even if they're incompetent, don't say now you engage in fruitive activity because you're not good at devotion. No. Slowly. That's okay. At least they are going in the right direction. What is the use of going full speed in the wrong direction? Even if they go slowly in the right direction, that is better, isn't it? You all agree? Correct? If you take a fast train in the wrong direction, or you get a slow train in the right direction, what is better? Obviously the slow train, because as long as our direction is clear, that is fine. If the direction is not important, then it doesn't matter. Once I was in a class, this happened many years ago. Sometimes we become so heavy on as preachers or as leaders or others. He's not becoming, as good a devotee as I want, and I must push him and I must crack a whip and make them. Once the Surnas Radhanath Maharaj was giving a class, and one of my very good friends, devotees my age only. This was many years ago. Story 20-25 years ago. So this devotee asked Radhanath Maharaj this question. Maharaj, I have a question. After the Bhagavatam class. It was a Sunday feast, I don't know. He said, Maharaj, I am struggling with my family. I'm trying to encourage my wife and my children to be more serious about sadhana. That and went on, he complained a bit. And they were there in the class. So the family was there in front of them. He was, say that, what should I tell them so that they become more serious about spiritual life? Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact words. So Radha Maharaj looked at him. He said, you should tolerate them. You should tolerate them in the same way that I am tolerating you. The same way that I am tolerating. Which means Maharaj is saying, you are seeing so many incompetencies in them. I can see so many incompetencies in you. You think you are some big, glorious, successful, great devotee. Is it? I am tolerating you, you tolerate them. So the point is, our whole process is a process to teach, guide, encourage, support, inspire. We are not interested in deflating people. You are like this, useless, hopeless, rot here for a million lifetimes. So Rishabhdev is saying this, the Lord himself is. Please make sure they're in the right direction. He says, because people who have nashta drishti, who have lost their vision, those who don't know the real goal of life, they don't know what is good for them. We have to help them because they are full speed going in the wrong direction. They are totally bound by this fruitive desire to enjoy their senses. Anger, lust, greed, they are just going out into the world trying to enjoy. For some little happiness, these people so foolishly, they create a society full of envy. What is this material world? This material world is full of envy. We all think that when we become very successful, make a lot of money, become very successful, have wonderful life, everybody will clap and oh, so nice. So wonderful. We all love you so much. Nothing like that is going to happen. This world is a world of envy. Even those who will tell us on our face, except for those who are purified souls, almost everybody who may even tell on our face words of appreciation, behind we don't know what they are thinking. That is the nature of material existence. So this kind of a culture, this kind of a society is a society of perpetual suffering. That's a hopeless situation. So this kind of a civilization where people are nashta drishti, oh my dear sons, ensure that you do not allow them to be nashta drishti. Make sure that you train the trainers, train the leaders, train the heads of the family, train the leadership of all departments in politics, in governance. Every teacher, every leader, every ruler, every governor, every administrator, every teacher, every parent, every guru must understand this message and teach them. Because if a person is truly merciful, truly learned, a learned person will never actually encourage a person to be engaged in the direction of material sense enjoyment. How can a person who's truly learned, one who really understands things as they are, how would he ever encourage people to lead lives like this? It's the blind leading the blind. And if a leader in any of these positions does indeed lead his dependents in the wrong direction, he is responsible. He has to suffer. So one may say, oh, he has to suffer, then what should? But I don't want to suffer. I'm a leader, but I don't want to teach this. I don't want to suffer. Rishabhdev gives a solution for them. He says, what is the solution? Then don't be a leader. You cannot do this, then don't be a leader. Quotes a very, very famous verses. Prabhupada quotes times. Gurur na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, Pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, Daivam na tatsyan, na patis chasasyan, nammo chayedyah samupeta mrityum. Very beautiful verse. It says, if you cannot deliver your dependence from the cycle of birth and death, you cannot deliver your dependence from the cycle of birth and death, then do not become a person who accepts a leadership position. What are leadership positions? List. This is not just king, administrator. That's not the only leadership position. Guru, don't become a guru, a teacher, material or spiritual. Do not become a father, do not become a mother. Which means if you cannot deliver your dependence, don't even produce children. Because if you are simply going to engage them in materialistic activity, then you are spoiling their life. They are looking at you for guidance, you are unable to guide. Why are you taking up that position? Daivam na sasyad, you cannot even become a devata. Pati, don't even become a husband, because it's the husband's duty as the head of the family to guide the wife and the family. Namo chayedya, who cannot deliver samupeta mrityu. And such personalities who are not following this principle and who are not truly guiding, then they are not actually fit to occupy that seat of that position, either as a father, or as a king, as a devata, as a spiritual master. And there are many examples in scriptures where individuals who accepted that position and violated this principle were rejected by their dependents because their dependents knew this particular principle, but their leader did not know. Huh? Correct? Huh? For example, with respect to Guru, Can anybody remember an example where somebody rejected his guru because rather than teaching them to surrender to the Lord, the guru was more interested in material remuneration, more interested in dakshina?
Bali Maharaj.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Prabhu. So Bali Maharaj rejected Shukracharya. I'm not going to go into the past time, because otherwise we'll take a long time. Then even Swajana means relative. Vibhishan rejected his elder brother Ravan. Gave him so much advice, Arey, aisa mat karo. Didn't. Finally, he switched sides. Who rejected his father?
Prahalad.
Very good. Prahlad Maharaj. He rejected Hiranyakashipu. Then who rejected his mother? Anything comes to mind?
Bharat.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Bharat Maharaj. He rejected Kaikeyi because she denounced Ram. Very good. Then Khatwanga Maharaj rejected Indra because anyway, we'll not go into that past time because he didn't follow the proper standard. And who rejected their husband for a higher cause? There are so many who reject their husband.
Gopis.
Gopis to some extent, but there's one very special story. Yeah, Gopis also too, but there's a very special story which is very specific to this particular point, which is in Krishna Lila. There is the story of the Dvija Patnis.
Rishabhdev.
The Brahmana voice.
Of the Brahmanas. Correct?
Yeah. They were not offering that sacrifice put to God.
Very good. Yes. He said, Arey, that my husband will, they, when God is saying he wants food, they are not. So they understood better. The husband was supposed to act like the leader, the guru, but they saw that the guru is not doing the job. So they refused to accept. So the point is, one can refuse one superior if the superior doesn't fulfill this principle. This is what the Bhagavatam says. I mean, at least as far as this point is concerned, this is not a license to just be rude and offensive to those who are not devotees. So, in this way, very beautifully, he summarizes this whole process and says, how important leadership position is. In fact, the Shastras say that, especially for a king, 1/6 of the karma of all the citizens comes to the king. 1/6 of the good and 1/6 of the bad karma of all the citizens. Share, commission goes to the king. So in Kali Yuga, I don't know why people are so excited to become leaders. It's actually, leader is a serious business. Serious business. Hare Krishna. So then the Lord continues. He moves on after having summarized his instructions. He moves on to explain to his children, because he has already told his children few things, few key principles. One is surrender to the Lord, serve the Lord's representative, and follow the principles of devotional service. So now he's turning to his children and he's explaining that now in your context, if you are trying to see how to interpret these instructions, now I'm coming to that. First, he gave principles. Correct? The problem is sometimes we know principles, but we don't know how to apply them in our context. Isn't it? Oftentimes we misapply them because of our spiritual immaturity. So the Lord wants to be very clear. So he explains to them. First thing he explains to them, for you, who's the Lord? For you all, my children, the Lord is me. Because I am myself the Supreme Personality of God. Rishabhdev is telling. He's explaining my transcendental body. You may think of me as a king, but actually it is a transcendental body. This is not a material body. It never decays. It is beyond the modes. And all religious principles are actually, the Sanatan principles are all in my heart. They reside in my heart. Dharma resides in my heart. In my transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of God. Adharma never comes anywhere near me. And because I am the topmost of all living entities, I am known as Rishabh. Rishabh refers to he who is the best, topmost, like Uttam, the best, Rishabh. We discussed this also earlier, how even Arjuna was referred to as Bharata Rishabha. It's the best amongst the Bharatas. Bharata Rishabha, Bharata Rishabha. So Rishabhdev says, I am that Supreme Personality of God, because I am transcendent. And if you are wondering, in your case, is that Mahat devotee that you should serve? Because I told you right at the beginning, right? There are two doors. One is Mahat Seva. Dwaram Ahur Vibhuktehe. The door to liberation opens with Mahat Seva. In case you are wondering who is the Mahat that you all should be serving. So let me not keep any suspense. I'm happy to inform you that the Mahat that I'm talking about in this context is your eldest brother Bharat. Because he is a pure devotee. And I'm going to appoint him as the king. And I want you all to serve him, accept his authority. He's my representative. He's like your guru. So for you, Mahat Seva is following the instructions of your eldest brother, Bharat. So Bharat was extraordinarily qualified. And he says, actually, all of you are divine. Just like Bharat is born out of my heart, you are also all born out of my heart. And that is why you all have wonderful divine qualities. There's a very interesting statement which Rishabhdev mentions, that he says that his children are born from the heart. Now, one may think, what has heart to do with the business of reproduction? Usually in the process of reproduction, there are other organs which are engaged. Where does the heart come into picture? So those whose intelligence is focused only in enjoying the body, they think like that. But those who know the higher principles of life know that based on the consciousness within the heart, of the father at the time of conception, a particular soul is accordingly attracted and placed. It is not just a biological process. The consciousness in the heart at the time of conception is very important. And that was the whole reason why our Shastras put so much emphasis on the Garbhadan Samskar. To purify the heart and have a heart full of love and devotion for the Lord, so that a wonderful soul whose consciousness matches with the consciousness of the heart is attracted, and in that way auspiciousness is created. That's why he's saying that you are all produced from my heart. And wherever we see this in the scriptures also, even for great souls, if their heart was contaminated at the time of conception, they attracted a wrong soul. Isn't it? Can you give me an example? The example from the Bhagavad. Sorry, Amit, you're trying to say something. I can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
Prabhuji, Kashyap and Diti.
Very good. Yes, Kashyap and Diti. Thank you. That is a prime example. Both are great souls, isn't it? Is Kashyap a great soul? Yes. Is Diti a great personality? Yes. But at that time, both of their consciousness, because first her consciousness was spoiled and then she spoiled the consciousness of her husband. They attracted such a living entity. So these are very, very important principles. We cannot take them lightly. We have to understand the subtle way in which the world functions. Anyway, so he says, you all are born from my heart. I want you to worship your elder brother Bharata with aklishta buddhaya, pure intelligence. And if you follow this principle, he says, excellent leader, is well trained, is very pure hearted. You all just follow him. And I'm sure when you do that, the entire setup of the governance of the whole world will be wonderful. Everything will work properly and all the citizens will be taken care of the way I have just described. Then another important principle Rishabhdev wants to emphasize, which is described earlier, which is about serving the great soul. Because he's spoken so much about Mahat Seva. So obviously serving Bharat is Mahat Seva, but beyond that, it's not that Bharat is the only Mahat. There are so many Brahmanas and Vaishnavas who are in society. And Rishabhdev is emphasizing to his children, it is very important for the development of spiritual culture that spiritually advanced personalities, the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Who's a Brahmana? Brahmajanati iti Brahmana. Those who are conversant in the science of God are Brahman. That's a very simple way to understand. And because they understand science, they are quite pure. Because those who are not pure in consciousness cannot understand this subject. Then he explains the glory of the Brahmanas. So he explains what is the position of the Brahmanas. So he just gives a hierarchy of living entities. And I'm just going to quickly summarize this. He says that the lowest of all are the inanimate objects. Higher than the inanimate objects like the stones and mountains are the immovable living beings like the trees. Higher than the immovable living beings are those living beings who can move. Higher than them are the animals. Higher than them are the humans. Then there are subtle species which are higher than the humans. There are the pramathas. Higher than them are the gandharvas. Higher are the siddhas, the kinnaras, the asura, the devatas, then Indra, then Daksha, then Lord Shiva. Then higher than that is Lord Brahma, and then the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the broad hierarchy. And he says that the Brahmanas are amongst the most special because they are very, very dear to me. The key principle is that those whose lives are dedicated to spiritual cultivation for themselves and those whose lives are dedicated to the cause of helping other spiritual cultivation are extremely dear to me. Because that's the whole purpose of my creation. So if somebody is aligned with the purpose of the creation, not only for himself, but to help others, then that person becomes very, very dear. And that's exactly what even Krishna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita says. Yad idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshu vidasyati bhakti maim param pratva manye vaishyate. The person is most dear to me. No one is more dear to me than he who explains this supreme secret amongst my devotees. The Brahmanas are the best of all. And that is why the Lord is known as Brahmanya Devaya. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya. Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya. Another side point in this connection is even though in the hierarchy, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and the Supreme Lord is mentioned, even though Brahma is mentioned above Lord Shiva, this is mentioned in the sense that From a hierarchical perspective, Brahma is senior to Lord Shiva because Lord Brahma is the father of Shiva in the sense that Shiva appears from the forehead of Brahma. So the first being within the universe is Brahma, Shiva comes later. And of course, Supreme Lord is the original person. But other than that, from a spiritual perspective, obviously we know Lord Shiva's position is higher than that of Lord Brahma. And then in glory of these Brahmanas, these Vaishnavas, of course, we have to understand, we say Brahmanas, the highest amongst the Brahmanas are the Vaishnavas. Because Brahmanas means transcendentalist, in a very simple way. Brahma Janati iti Brahman, those who know spiritual science, means they are engaged in a transcendental goal. But amongst yoginam api sarvesham madhyate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayuktatama. I said in the Bhagavad Gita 6.46 that amongst all the yogis, he who is my devotee is the topmost yogi. And Krishna says something very interesting. He says, Rishabhdev, in this form, he's telling his son, he says, please understand how dear the Brahmanas are to me, these great souls, especially these devotees. They are so dear to me that I especially enjoy eating food offerings which are offered through the mouth of my devotees, the Brahmanas, rather than those food items being offered into the yajna. Which means if there is a choice between putting offerings into the yajna, because yajna fire is also considered the tongue of Vishnu. So Vishnu, Lord Hari, eats the offerings in the yajna through the sacrificial fire. Agni passes it to Lord Vishnu. That is the understanding. But the Lord is saying, that is not as tasty for me, that is not as satisfying for me as when that food is fed qualified Brahmins, qualified devotees. I become so happy and satisfied. Which means the Lord becomes extremely satisfied when his devotees are nicely fed. This also means for us, instead of doing big fire yajnas, we call advanced pure souls to our home and feed them nicely. Lord Hari is more pleased. So these are tips of spiritual technology. So you should grasp. It's easier. It is also more cost effective. And it is also produces better result. So in all ways, it is a better approach. In that way, both the Lord is pleased, the Vaishnava is pleased, and everything is wonderful. I derive more pleasure. The Brahmanas are actually supporting my whole body. The purpose of whole creation is being supported. So there are many points. I'm not going to go into all of that. He describes the various qualities of the Brahmanas, how they are situated in pure Sattva Guna, then how they have Sama, Dama, Satya, Anugrah, Tapasya, Tiksha, Anubhava. And then the perfect among the Brahmanas are those who have no material desire, who are totally dedicated to serving me, the Vaishnavas. And the Lord concludes the glorification of the Brahmanas by saying that the Brahmanas are so great because they are not expecting anything from me, even from me, what to speak of from others. They are so dear to me, I am willing to give anything to them, but they don't ask anything. They just simply want to serve me. They simply want to please me. They don't seek any material comforts from me. I can give them heaven, I can give them liberation, I can give them, but they don't want anything. They are akama. No material desire. So if they don't ask anything from me, how can they be dependent on anybody else? I provide for them and I take care of them even though they don't ask anything from me. I am Go Brahmanya Hitayacha. I am their well-wisher. I am their protector. I take care of them. But they don't ask for anything. They are Nishkinchana. Sorry, Akinchana. Akinchana Nam. They are without any material position. And they are simply engaged. Mai Bhakti Bhajam. Engaged in my devotional service. So make sure that while you are ruling this world, while you are serving Bharat Maharaj, you have to pay special attention that you serve spiritually exalted people very nicely. Feed them very nicely, take care of them, respect them. Because that is the way everything will become wonderful and happy and prosperous in the kingdom. Actually, this is a very easy formula for happiness. If you take care of the Brahmins and you take care of the cows, that's a very simple formula for happiness. Everything wonderful will come about. So do worship the Brahmanas, he is saying. And after that, he says that just because I'm telling you to serve the Brahmanas doesn't mean you can be rude and arrogant to all the others. Remember what I told you earlier? That you have to have an equal drishti to all living entities. You cannot be envious towards anybody. It's very important. And as devotees, we must be very conscious of this principle. Sometimes we respect the devotees, but we are so offensive and critical of everybody. He's a non-devotee. He's materialistic. He's sinful. We put ourselves on a pedestal as if we are some great devotee. And we start judging everybody else. So respect all moving and non-moving beings. Because an advanced spiritualist sees everybody as part and parcel of the Lord. He's not envious of anybody. That samadrishti is very important for proper spiritual advancement. Understand that I am situated, the super soul is situated in the heart of each of them. In this way, you should offer your respect. In fact, there is no harm offering respect to any living being. An advanced soul offers respect to everybody. Correct? What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita about Brahmana Samadarshinaha? Shuni Chaiva Shupakecha. Correct? Brahmani Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shupakecha. She's the Brahmana, the elephant, the dog, the Chandala, everybody with equal. So make sure all these principles are followed properly, and ultimately the crux of all principles is bhakti, because if you forget bhakti, nothing you will achieve. You cannot achieve liberation without bhakti. So make sure you don't forget the main recipe. Otherwise, all the side recipes will be there, side dishes will be there, but you forget to take the main course. You take chutney, you take pickle, you take salad, but you forget to take the rice and sabji, or and then you are not going to. How is the meal going to satisfy you? You'll end up only eating pickle. So engage your mind, your sight, your words, and all your senses in my service. And that is my worship. Without engaging in this service of mine through your mind, intelligence, and your senses, one cannot escape material existence, which is the Yama Pasha, the stringent laws of Yamaraj. So in this way, Rishabhdev actually very beautifully summarizes all his instructions. We have concluded his instructions. We're not concluded the chapter yet. We concluded his instructions. And he did that especially to set the right example. He did this in public view, as I had mentioned to you earlier. So I'll just quickly, I think I can just rush through the last 7-8 verses briefly. So what it is said is that Rishabhdev enthroned his son Bharata as the king. This is the same Bharat Maharaj on whose name today India is known as Bharat. This is that Bharat, who was a very, very great topmost devotee. So after giving it to such a great devotee, who is, the Bhagavatam calls him Bhagavata Jana Parayana. He was not only the greatest devotee, but he was also the humble servant of the devotees. So a devotee is as great based on his love of the Lord and how much he becomes a servant to everybody else. Being a great devotee is not becoming a big boss. It's becoming a pure servant. So for some time, Rishabhdev stayed at home. And even as he was at home, it is said he was living like a sadhu. And he had given up all material possessions even when he was at home. It is said he lived even at home like a madman. He was naked. He would not even wear anything. So he came to the point of, he decided that he wanted to, totally disassociate himself from the material world. It is said then, it is said he took the sacrificial fire within himself and he left home. What that means is, initially he was doing various sacrifices as a grihastha, but now when he took his avadhuta form, he gave up all, because he's a fully transcendently realized personality. Of course, he's the Lord, but he's now playing the role of an avadhuta. An avadhuta is a personality who's a paramhamsa, who has gone even beyond sannyas, who has become totally indifferent to all material conditions. So it is said he left the palace and he started touring the whole world. So this is known as an avadhuta. What is an avadhuta? An avadhut is a totally renounced personality who has no material consideration, no cares of the world. Lord Rishabhdev would just roam around. It is said he would roam around, and it seemed to the world, because he was so disinterested, he came across as a dull, blind, deaf, dumb, a ghostly possessed man. He would not speak, he would just walk around. Even when people came and spoke to him, that mood of an avadhuta being absorbed in his own spiritual nature, would not be interested in any social interaction. He was totally on a transcendental platform. In fact, as he would walk through the towns and the villages, and people would observe him, and he came across as if he was a madman. Sometimes people would insult him, they would speak bad words to him. He would not be bothered. He remained indifferent, it is said. Just like an example is given of an elephant. An elephant sometimes is, surrounded by flies. But the elephant is not bothered, it just carries on. Sometimes people would abuse him, sometimes they would threaten him, they would throw stones at him. Sometimes when he would be sitting somewhere, they would come and urinate on him. Sometimes it is said they would come and pass foul air on his face. But even when insulted, he would not respond at all, and he would never be disturbed. He didn't care about any material condition. And of course, being the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, his form was very beautiful. His form was very transcendental. The Bhagavatam describes how he was. His face was so beautiful. He was always smiling. Very beautiful description. He had very beautiful curly matted hair also. But because he was in that avadhuta mood, he would appear as if he was haunted by a ghost. The Bhagavatam says. So the point is, sometimes it's even difficult to recognize a very advanced, especially those who are in this avadhuta Babaji mood. That's why generally we should be careful not to simply offend and insult others. We don't know who is who. Especially when we are in the dham and even amongst devotees. We don't know who has been a devotee for how many lifetimes. Who is how advanced. Some people whom we may be, looking down upon, maybe devatas who have just come down to assist the Lord's pastimes. Even now I'm talking about in this time. Invariably, I can tell you in writing that there are definitely some people who are from the higher planets. I'm not saying that I know who they are. I'm just telling you that definitely they are. Guaranteed. Because even now, many residents of the higher planets are still coming down to assist to make Mahaprabhu's movement successful. So it is best to be very careful how we interact with people in general. Also, and even devotee community in particular. I'll just take 5 minutes more, please tolerate. Just like Rishabhdev tolerated all these people, please tolerate me. Then it is said he assumed the Ajagara vritti. Ajagar means, what is Ajagar? Ajagar means python. After he saw that so many people are bothering him, insulting him, he said, why move around? He would just lie down in one place. He even gave up any attempt to find any food or anything. Just lie down in one place. Nothing, no movement, no speaking, no interaction. He would sleep there, he would eat whatever his hand could reach, any grass, he would put the grass in his mouth. Please don't imitate any of this. Because that will perhaps be the last day of our life if we try to imitate any of these things. These are not practices we can. This is not sadhana. This is an avadhuta platform. Anyone who imitates great souls without having achieved that level just simply destroys himself. It is said he would just lie in that place, even for passing stool and urine, he would not get up. Which means that even in that sleeping position, he will pass stool and urine. So it is said that practically he was rolling in his own stool and urine. Now, we may think that that is such an obnoxious thing. That's the worst thing we can think of. But remember what Rishabhdev described about himself, that his body is transcendental. It is said that the urine and stool which emanated from his body had a musk-like perfume which spread for miles around. So please don't do this unless you can emit musk-like perfumes for 8 miles. So to conclude, it is said that, this is how he passed his time. And even though he was master of all yoga, even though he had all the 8 mystic powers, which perfect yogis have, the anima, lagima, prapti, kama, vashayita, and so on and so forth. He said he never used or displayed any of these potencies. He was simply happy in enjoying his realization of himself, because he's the Supreme Person. Correct? It is said, just like Krishna as a grihastha in Dwarka, when he would get up, it is said after waking up and getting fresh, the Lord would spend some time meditating. Every day he would do sadhana. Whom would he meditate on? Meditate on himself, because there's nothing higher than himself. So the Lord enjoys meditating on himself. So like that. So in that way, he passed his time. Yeah? So that brings us to the end of this chapter. A little bit of the activities of Rishabhdev continue into the next chapter, which is chapter 6. But that we will cover in the next time. And The next class also will discuss how Rishabhdev disappeared from the world. Next class is on 4th, right? Okay. Anyway, so I would like to pause here. Any questions and comments? Yes.
Yeah, Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Saroj Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah, regarding guiding our dear ones, I mean children equals or little bit seniors. So children, I can understand that we need to keep guiding them, but equals, how long we can guide them? Even we are telling this is the thing we have to do it. What is the duration, Prabhuji? I mean,
Whom are you considering equal? What is your
equal
definition
means
of equal?
if of my age or 2 or 3 years elder to my age, near dear ones. So
Okay. So in general, we should directly instruct or guide only those who take or those who submissively inquire. But those who are not submissively inquiring, it again depends very much on our relationship with them. In a friendly way, you can inspire them by sharing your own success, your own experience. And they feel inspired by that, and then that is also good. Usually what happens amongst equals, people do not like if we take a superior position. What happens is that when we become devotee, we have now become devotee, get into, there is an instructive tone which comes into our voice and we speak to everybody. Understand what that means? Instructive tone. You don't know, I will tell you, is the meaning of life. So what happens is when we take an instructive tone, whether it's towards friends, brothers, cousins, or others who are around that equal category, immediately when people see that they're being talked down to, they are being instructed, immediately there comes a very defensive mechanism. They no longer hear what you are saying. They immediately shut off. So we have to judge based on our very specific relationships. In which relationship we can be direct, in which relationships we should be indirect. It is always best to take a very humble approach to sharing Krishna consciousness. With anybody for that matter, especially so for equals. And even good for juniors, I mean, why should we be, I will tell you, why should we take, we are responsible for teaching and instructing doesn't mean that we have to be talking down to anybody, if you understand what I mean. Talking down means taking a position of, I know it, you don't. Listen from me. What is what? Kind of a approach.
Yeah.
So the best way to preach to anybody and everybody is to preach through our personal example. Which means if we are happy in Krishna consciousness and others see that how happy, how blissful, and even after being this, how we are so humble, service-oriented, being nice to them. Exactly as Rishabhdev says, right? Encourage them. You can guide them without instructing them. That's an art. Correct? We can share knowledge without instructing. For example, very simple thing, right? Okay, you are around my age, right? If I met you for the first time, you become my friend. One thing I can tell you is, I can start by trying to help you by speaking the first verse of this chapter. Nayam deho deha bhajam loke kashtan kaman arhati vidbujani. That this human form of life is not for material sense enjoyment. That is the business of the stool eaters, the pigs. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhaye yasmat dharma saukhyam. All of what I have said is technically correct. But you will not appreciate if I speak to you like that. But if you say, nowadays I'm reading this book, about Rishabhdev's teachings, and wow, there's something I read last week. Oh, I've been shaken up and I've been thinking so much about it. Your friend says, no, tell, what is it? No, you may find it very odd. No, it's okay. No, tell me. No, he talks about the goal of life. He says that this life, I was thinking this life is for material enjoyment. But did you ever think about it that actually the purpose of life is to achieve supreme happiness, Brahma Saukya? Isn't it very interesting? You understand?
Yeah.
You have changed the total. You are still conveying the meaning, but you are not taking the position of instructing.
Good.
You are sharing Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
So we are not realized souls. It is best for us to not get into an instructing mode. Yeah, actually the reality is where we have realized this. We are not, right? So that's why I also say, when I speak with enthusiasm, it is not that I'm instructing you, I'm instructing myself. So this is my disclaimer for all classes. So I get very excited. I'm talking to myself. Don't think I'm talking to you. So it is very much important how we present it. At a particular time when your friend becomes your student, then you can slightly take a different mode. Right? Just like between Krishna and Arjuna. Only when Arjuna took the mode of a student, until then he was friend. Karpanya doshopahat swava prachami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yashrayasyan nishchitam ruhitam shishyasteyam. Suresh, please tell me, I'm bewildered. I understand. I don't know. Please tell me what should I do? You can explain. Of course, you still remain humble, but then you can, speak in a slightly different way. So the principle of sharing Krishna consciousness is to do in such a way that the other person accepts it, doesn't reject it. Whatever is the most effective based on your specific relationship. You understand?
Yes. Thank you.
Whereas, we have to be a judge of time, place, circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Any other point? Wonderful. Hare Krishna. So, I'll see you all on Wednesday. We'll continue with we'll conclude with the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela Wednesday. And the following Wednesday itself, your Purnima is on Wednesday, isn't it? Not Tuesday. Okay. It's on 7th, right? Yeah. But this is a clashing festival on one of these days. Anyway, let me check. Oh, okay. I have a clashing. Last on next this Wednesday, I think. Okay, anyway, I will check and I will update you if there is any adjustment. There was something which was clashing, which is I realized few days ago. Anyway, never mind. I'll update you all on the workshop group. So let's conclude by thanking Lord Rishabhdev for such wonderful instructions. Please read these verses. It's a very, very deep, profound. I just hope at least by the end of this life, I can understand what Rishabhdev has spoken. Understand truly, not just intellectually, but to really imbibe and realize these words. Because that is the beginning of the birth of real good fortune. Of course, we are already fortunate, but real rapid advancement happens when we come to this point of realizing that we have to exclusively focus our life on Tapo Divyam, not on sense enjoyment. We break the karmashaya. Okay, thank you very much. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, thank you.
Hare Krishna and thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you,
Hare Krishna
everyone.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Sridhar ji.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol Rita ji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna Prabhu. Thank you,
you,
Prabhu.
Shalini ji, Ravi, Sridevi ji. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna,
Hari Bol
Prabhuji.
Sridhar ji. Thank you, Sapna ji also. Indulekha Mataji, Ankan, nice to see you. Charan Lakshmi Mataji, Anand Sundari Mataji, Sachi Prema Mataji. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.